Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Take 5. It is Wednesday, May 4th, 2011, and we are in a section of Scripture that I'm going to call the Special Victims Unit. One of the most popular programs on television is Law and Order Special Victims Unit, and the announcer comes on at the beginning of every show and says something like, in New York City, the crimes against children are considered especially heinous. Those brave detectives who fight these crimes are known as the Special Victims Unit. These are their stories. Something like that. And anyway, the show, I watch the show. It's one of my favorite shows, by the way. But a lot of the episodes have to do with children. And so Jesus is still talking about children, but this whole passage from basically the beginning of chapter 18 all the way through chapter 19 is dealing with victims of sin. And I believe in our churches, we've not done a very good job dealing with victims. So we're going to continue today talking about children, and then tomorrow we'll be talking about other kinds of victims. So continue to tune in every day. I appreciate you being here. We're in Matthew chapter 18. As I said, we're in verse 12. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep, and one of them has gone astray, does he not leave the 99 on the mountains and go in search of the one that went astray? And if he finds it, truly I say to you, he rejoices over it more than over the 99 that never went astray. So it is not the will of my Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. Now, if that parable looks familiar, it's because Jesus repeats it in Luke 15, but he gives a little different twist to it there, and when we get to Luke 15, we'll talk about it then. But what he's talking about here is how important it is to care for every child. You know, our previous president started a program in the schools called No Child Left Behind, because we had numerous children who would graduate high school and not even know how to read and write. So we are doing our best to fix that. And there, I know we're getting into political stuff there, and that's not my point. But nevertheless, it was a great idea and a great concept. We're not going to leave any child behind. That's what Jesus is saying here. He doesn't want that. Your Father in heaven does not want even any. It's not good enough if we get 99 out of 100. Now, if you took a test in school and got 99 out of 100, that's a tremendous grade. If you're a sports team and win 99% of your games, you're most likely going to be the champion of whatever sport you're in. But in Jesus' eyes, 99 out of 100, not enough. And he says it's so important you leave the 99 and you go find the one lost child. So we want to make sure that we are caring for our children. Parents, if you have multiple children, care for each one of them. And if one of them's struggling a little bit, give that one the special attention. There's somebody that comes to mind right now. I know they've got a child that's struggling. Give that child special attention. I'm not saying ignore the other one, and I know Jesus says leave the 99, but he doesn't. Remember, it's a parable here, okay? You don't leave your other children. The important thing is you pay a special attention to the ones that are hurting. You know, in our church classes, if you got a child that's not really understanding the lessons, take special attention to that child and help them understand the Bible stories and things like that. So we got to care for all the children, down to the last individual, not just the popular ones, not just the pretty ones or the handsome ones or the smart ones or the physically fit ones or the athletes. All the children, every child is important to God, so every child should be important to us. Been talking about children for 2 days now. It's important to the Lord, should be important to you. Come back tomorrow. We've got what I believe is the most neglected passage in the entire New Testament to our churches. We're not going to neglect it. We're not going to neglect it on this show. I may take 2 or 3 days on it, but come back tomorrow for the next edition of Take 5.